Welcome back to Google Cloud Next 26. We are streaming live here in Las Vegas. I'm Alison Kosik alongside John Furrier. And let's get into the conversation about the power of the ecosystem and what really is the blueprint for AI success.
Yeah, the transformation story is real. C-suite, deep tech players, developers all engaging. Business model transformation is on the table for every single company in every vertical. It's awesome.
Yeah, who better to bring in but Nidhi Srivastava? I hope I pronounced that great.
Yeah.
She is the Senior Vice President and Head of Google Business Group, Genpact. Welcome to theCUBE. And Pallab Deb, Director of Global Partner GTM Practice and Product Engagement with Google Cloud. Welcome to the
Good to be here,
as well. So let me start with you about what you think the power of the partner ecosystem is. Talk about your partnership and how making a blueprint for AI success is so important.
So, I believe the partner ecosystem is now the new village, wherein we work with the vision of the client, and we at Genpact are famous for process intelligence. We've been working with the business processes for our clients for many, many years, and we have a very deep understanding of what the last mile looks like for our clients, and that's part of the differentiation edge that we bring to an engagement. So when you combine that with the power of a platform like Google Cloud, it becomes a motif for success. So that's why the partnership is super important. Also, we've never seen tech change at the pace at which it is changing today. Yeah. And that is why the village becomes so important, and that's why we are all here at Next. Because at some level you have to hold each other's hands as you move forward. Yeah. And that's what's really unfolding, because nobody knows it all. And everybody is, in some form or shape, leaning on each other. Yeah. And that's what makes the partnership real, and that's what makes it exciting as well.
You're the first person to say that, which that's amazing. It's a little empathy. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll just go off from what you said, Nidhi. Here's the deal, I'm a little old. I've been around since the days of ERP, and if you go back to those days, John, and you look at the size and composition of the team that got ERP in place, you actually had some people who were called process experts, materials management, sales and distribution, and then for a good 20 years after that, we've been all focused only on tech, mobile, data, data lake, whatever have you, but functional kind of receded to the background. I think AI is bringing all that back to the front. We see the need to have deep process awareness and understanding and ownership. That's a very vital element, because when you own the process, you're also able to transform and take accountability for the outcome. You're not just advising. That's amazing, and when you marry that up with the technical stuff that Google's producing, and thank God for Google and our amazing engineers at DeepMind and in the infrastructure team, when you marry both of those things together, it's just amazing. And I think this is a great partnership where their process ownership, the depth of process at an operator level comes to bear with technology. They can actually take that and make magic happen for customers.
Well, I'm in the same age group you are, but remember, people, process, and technology was always the buzzword.
Yep.
And that's always been the cliche, but it actually matters now.
It matters
now. The people are humans driving the AI agents.
Yeah.
The technology is the full stack, and the plethora of greatness coming out every 30 days. You mentioned change, I'm like, oh, this. Yeah. And then the process.
Yep.
That's the workflows.
Yep.
So you look at the agent conversations we're having on theCUBE across the past year, it all comes down to end-to-end workflows, which has process. If you look at the revenue we're seeing from the results here, from the keynote and the examples, and other outside of Next event, the people who are succeeding are targeting revenue workflows and process. Yeah. So process improvement is not dead, it's just reimagined, but it's where everyone's pointing all their action at the action at. Yeah. That's where AI is going. So I don't think that's debatable. The question is, where do you start? What do I do first? We've seen people spray and pray, okay? and other ones be more intentional, saying, hey, let's get some big wins. Let's solve the hardest problem. McKinsey came on and said, their approach is, what's your biggest problem?
Yep.
That you could drive revenue from. Boom, go there. So there's different approaches. So what's your reaction to that? What would you say to that question? If that asked, where do I start? What do I focus on? What would you look at?
You want to take it away?
All right. So I think, one, if we look at the last 18 to 24 months, I think people got a chance to play with tech. And everybody was doing it in real time. I think there is definitely a lot more acceptance across the board. What I mean is, the whole fear of the new tech has faded away. So I think we are clearly at the point, that we should solve the real problems. That's where, my head is. Playing at the edge and, getting used to it and feeling comfortable, we are past that point. Now, once you decide that, okay, you are going to pick a big rock, then it is a little contextual to the client. Where do they want to begin? Front office, back office, middle, and we have found in our experience working with different clients, you will be surprised, finance transformation has kind of bubbled up to the top. Yeah. So one of the first agentic products that we launched from Genpact was our accounts payable AP suite, because we found the most pull.
FP&A is hot.
FP&A is really hot.
Super hot right now.
Yeah. So I will say FP&A, supply chain, and of course, all over the world, the term client zero has taken a life of its own. Yeah. Each one of us is doing a client zero, and there we touch, all key, processes that touch the employee. Yeah. The whole human resource experience. So I think that's another big one that I'm beginning to see take shape.
I love the client zero thing, because I think this is why the community is so dynamic, is because we are holding hands, we're crossing the bridge to the future together, and there's a communal aspect to being on the frontier. And they call them frontier models, everyone's on the frontier, and so things are new. Right. And so there's a lot of peer review, peer checking in, friends, so teamwork and partnership kind of go together. So being a teammate is great, being a partner is great, so you put them together. There's a lot of that going on. Do you guys see that too?
Oh yeah, we see a lot of that. In fact, I'll write off a little bit on what Nidhi said. You know what McKinsey told you, just go and find the hardest problem, and I'll come to how the team solves it. I would just add a little bit more color to that. Find the most ardent believer at a stewardship role that can drive this, because this is not for the weak of the heart.
Skeptics will block it.
Yeah,
they'll create paralysis and hiding in plain sight.
You couldn't have said it better. Absolutely right. So find the right steward. Also find the problem that can actually be solved in a meaningful way, because quite a few things just can't be moved dramatically with agentic AI because of regulatory issues or whatever have you, right? So I would just add these two flavors. But yeah, it comes down to teaming to get it done, bottom line.
What's one thing that leaders underestimate when they start this journey?
What do leaders underestimate? I think, do you mind if I take that?
Please, go ahead.
I think from our vantage point where we see this happening across industries, I think people think that this is a very simple thing, because the demos and the slick demos,
the vibe coding, everyone's doing it.
You think you can get your way out of complexity? Oh my God, don't even try, right? The demos are going to show you that you can prompt and you can get wonderful things happen. Try doing that on top of a fairly custom SAP installation that manages your supply chain, where things are mission critical. You're probably going to need hard engineering work. And I think that's the gap between what's promised versus what it takes to get through the journey.
So production at scale is a North Star for AI workloads.
Yep.
Just kind of iterate and just kind of drive to that.
Exactly. Get to that piece in production. You're not going to unpack the complexity in a pilot or the pilot purgatory. Yeah. You got to get out of that mess. You got to do this with production data. You got to do this in a line of business or in an area where you have the appetite to fail fast and not bring the business down. But then you get a sense of, hey, what it takes to make this happen.
I hear a lot of people talk like this, and I even say it a bunch on theCUBE, and certainly the leaders like Jensen Huang say it all the time, adding intelligence to networking, adding intelligence to storage, adding intelligence to compute, adding intelligence to fill in the blank, whatever you can. That is what's happening. You're adding intelligence to the human in the process. The human's the user, driver of it. So you put intelligence into a process. Okay, we all probably believe that.
Intelligence and, sorry to interrupt, intelligence and now action, right?
Action, well, the process should have, the action should be a result. But we had some people on theCUBE comparing the old, when electricity came out, that you couldn't, they were trying to retrofit factories for electricity, but didn't design the factory for electricity.
Yeah.
So you're either going to be subsumed by the AI, or you're going to actually do it right.
Yeah.
How does that relate to process? Because this is a #1 question we get in this area, is that, okay, I get process improvement, I can see the workflows, check, check, check. What do I got to do to change the process without materially impacting any structural operational issues, but make it AI native?
Native, yeah.
Right. So here is what I will say. One, what people underestimate is the change management aspect. Because even, once with the best technology, human beings just resist change, even if it is better sometimes, because of different things. You just, you have to learn a new way of doing things. So I think that is somewhat underestimated. Even in tech companies, we are rolling out so many new agents, new applications, and we still deal with the adopters as well as the naysayers. That's very, that transcends time. But to your point, I think when you look at a process, it's super important to reimagine the process for AI. Because throwing AI on an old process only gives you marginal improvement. And I think that's also where the business case of AI sometimes suffers, because people are just, instrumenting AI into an existing process which was not designed for AI. It was very human-centric process. So I think what our learning has been is that it is super important to do all that value stream mapping, the old way we would, really, look at the value stream, look at the persona. The acceptance becomes much better as you build the agent to mimic the persona. Because, it's just, and even your hybrid workforce then shapes up a lot better. So I do think that spending, enough time reimagining the process is critical to, the scale at, when you're looking for success at scale.
Yeah.
So that's critical. Sometimes it's underestimated, under-recognized. People are in a rush to implement technology. And I can tell you that, there is, that term that the next generation uses, the fear of missing out, the FOMO, is at a different level. Corporates are suffering from FOMO today. So I think, I think
everyone has to use AI or you're fired. We've heard that. We've heard, and then they look at the bill. Oh boy. And then the demand on the infrastructure side for GPUs and TPUs and compute, still and storage. Skyrocket. So it's an evolution. And it's growing fast, but it's still nascent in the enterprise. And I think one of the things we're watching is enterprise adoption. And we've seen Gen 1 AI, RAG search, retrieval augmentation generation, marketing copy, great, check. But last year, coding really cracked the nut there, because when coding came in to the enterprise, that gets attention because, one, productivity is highlighted because engineers like to talk and they want to show their success, and you're going to quantify productivity. They're shipping product faster. It's having revenue impact. I think that's going to open the door to agentic, because it's a short hop to connect. What do you guys think about that? How does that look like? Do you have any observations around the momentum? Am I getting it right? Do you agree with that, or is it too simple?
I can take that, and then you can jump in. So I think you're right. So what we saw in coding, and we see, I was looking at something from A16Z last week about the offtake of AI into different industries. Clearly, software is the outlier. Everything else is a cliff after that, right? So with that said, if you were to think about bringing that into business processes. We just heard from Nidhi about the complications over there. I think there's one interesting parameter. When you do software and you're either using it for generation or for testing, whatever, your context window is what you leverage to put in your code, or you ask it to generate code, and you look at that code and you better it, improve it, etc., and you're done. When you think about a business process, it's not as straightforward as software. There are perhaps documents, there are perhaps scripts, and there are perhaps human-in-the-loop needed steps that are part of that. And so I think software gets us closer, but now this one needs different level of clever engineering to really materialize. I wouldn't want to, for example, I was telling somebody earlier today, that even if Google or somebody offers me a 1 million token context window, you don't want to use that 1 million token context window to push 50 PDFs into the LLM. You're going to get your token usage go through the roof, and that's going to blow your business case. How do you still get memory? How do you still retain context?
Memory is a huge deal.
Memory is a huge deal.
Not HBM, but like model memory.
Model memory, exactly. That's the clever engineering in business process, which you perhaps did not have in software. Engineering for process without burning your token count and yet getting the outcome they desired. I think that's the holy grail where companies like Genpact and others are going to be solving for.
Nidhi, talk about this, because what he's basically getting at is essentially the relationship between process and the platform intelligence to get smart about each other, knowing what to bring to the table. That, like, you're basically saying, hey, you know, why would you want to throw all these tokens at the price? I'll just eat it up.
Yeah, exactly.
And what did it do? Might be marginal, or it might not have much impact. Or targeted AI for the process. It's like right-sizing the AI for the process, which some are more complex than others.
True, absolutely. And I think we are still finding the answers, you know, the patterns, you know, on how do you right-size, you know, AI for the process. I think we have early indicators, early results, you know, at this stage of the game. Certain things are kind of very proven. If you look at, you know, you have assistants of all kinds these days, AI assistants.
What's proven in your mind? What's proven? What would be a proven?
So I think the consumer use of AI, it has really proven itself at some level.
Right? Everyone loves it.
It's absolutely. It's the enterprise usage, which, you know, like, I still have questions. I do meet CIOs who are friends who are still, you know, looking for the ROI, who are still looking for a little more maturity. And that is also because, you know, they still have a legacy landscape. And, you know, so for them, it's, you know, how do they make the leap from their current to what the future is? That becomes like, you know, a bit of a stumbling block for them, you know, and that's when they say, you know, is this ready? Is this proven?
And, you know, it's interesting, Alice and I were talking about this, is that the fast follower model in the past might not be as viable given the velocity. At the same time, laggards are probably not even going to be in the picture. So there's a little bit of an urgency going on here.
You
know,
nobody can afford to be a laggard today, you know, because it's an existential crisis. So nobody can be a laggard. But I still say, I'll say this. Some people don't just say it enough, but apart from the change management, I think the legacy landscape and the data readiness, these are two other very significant complications.
I think the change management is right on point, because that seems to be the cultural issue. You mentioned find the champion, find the steward in there, or as Theodore Roosevelt say, walk softly, carry a big stick.
Oh yeah, there you are.
You know, so there's a lot of like leadership principles that are at risk here. We had a long chat again with McKinsey on this earlier yesterday about the management leadership style.
Exactly.
You know, everyone has to use AI or you're fired. That's not a good approach. More get in like a CFO, learn, pull people across. So you're going to have skeptics in all organizations. But if the skeptics take hold, then paralysis happens, and you see sprawl and purgatory projects, pilots sitting around, and then say, oh, it didn't work.
And so let's move on.
Versus, no, it worked. We drove revenue. It's very interesting. What's your take on the leadership culture? Because I think, we're seeing CFOs being much more involved, even in our CUBE interviews. We would never interview CFOs before because we're not CFO magazine or anything, we don't really, but because they're involved in budgeting, and operations.
Yes.
The operational impact is significant. Can you guys comment on that operational impact that the C-suite is impacted by, because it's coming from the bottom up? Any thoughts on operational impact?
I mean, so I think the CFO persona is very interesting. You know why? Because that's also you could argue that it's more deterministic than a lot of other areas of the business processes, right? Not equivalent to software where you can very clearly say it, but if you've got to close your books at the end of the month, they got to close down to the last decimal place, period. An agent or a human being has got to happen. So, and the CFOs have the powers of the purse. So their ability to therefore employ the technology and see the benefit is an amazing, amazing view into how this technology can play out. So,
and their business models are changing.
Yeah, and the business
and that impacts their reporting. They got to be involved. They got to instrument that.
Absolutely. You should talk to Nidhi about how they are transforming the way they price their engagements with customers. That's dramatic, and the CFOs love it, I would assume.
Yeah, so we're really moving away from FTE or a headcount-based pricing, to a really, product subscription-based pricing. Now that's quite a leap for, what our business is. To really think in terms of products and in terms of, recurring revenue on a platform. So I think, that's a very significant change for us.
And John, this is remarkable in their case because they were the operators of the process. They were running that process for the last 10 years. They are now employing the technology, in some sense cannibalizing their own revenue, but then producing an outcome that the CFO is now showing around. Look, if I can get them to produce outcome, why can't you, Mr. Supply Chain or procurement or somebody else?
Well, guys, it's been a great conversation. My final question to close out, the show. How would you describe in a sentence Google Next this year? We've seen many years of Google rising up. How would you classify this event? Give me 2 sentences, or 3.
You want? Okay.
You were the partner.
Okay, all right. So I think I found Google Next this year great from the standpoint of how grounded the conversations were. And maybe it's a sign of maturing of AI. I found the keynote, and it touched on all the key points that an enterprise looks for. When you look at the whole Gemini Enterprise agent platform, because that's what, you need that orchestration and also the scale, the governance. And also the other thing that really resonated very well with me was the agentic data cloud. Because to me, data is a big burning issue still, and so that was very good. So I really liked the real conversation.
And security, nailed security. You got threat intelligence merged in with Wiz, that's nice.
Absolutely. And
win the enterprise, you got to nail security.
And then the whole agentic task force, and that's going to, operating model and the hybrid workforce. So it was great, and of course I've been here quite a few times now. So
all right.
For me, it's like,
it was a good show.
So it's like a reunion, meeting friends,
Holding hands.
So
holding hands,
all the way.
All right, you're biased, but we'll like to hear that.
No, I'm not biased at all, John, of course not. But I'll go out on a limb here, okay? I think here's what I feel like. I think this next is a seminal in the sense that it's kind of shown that the technology can work and will work, and that's why this whole agentic data at scale, by the way. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is probably the last Next that talks tech. Next year, I expect to see industry pavilions here, because remember P. Process, people, technology. P is going to take over.
Oh, wow.
And I think we're going to talk a lot process next year.
Empathy, people. Guys, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you've been watching theCUBE, the leader in live technology coverage. We'll be right back.